All right, so JR made a video for the Holiness Network, basically asking what our spiritual practices are. So I thought I'd go into that a little bit. For one thing, I spend about 10 to 15 minutes every morning, or every day at least, um, doing some centering prayer, which is very similar to meditation, except I guess the main two differences I can think of it are sort of the position of what you're doing and the centering prayer is sort of explicitly theistic in terms of trying to align yourself with God. Um, aside from that, a lot of my practices are derived from the Kabbalah. I do a lot of Kabbalistic rituals like the Kabbalistic cross and the pattern of the trestle board and what's called the Four Worlds meditation. Um, Toning the different god names. Uh, yeah, I do a lot of sort of tree of life meditations. Um, so I also find spiritual practices in terms of I find uh, that different media can be actually be a sort of spiritual practice. In fact, one of my favorite sort of meditations for me is watching my favorite movie, which is Baraka. If I'm sure some of you have seen that. It is for those who haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's not it doesn't have a plot per se. It's actually kind of an art film, but it's a it's an incredible expression of um, it's almost hard to describe of like the sort of human condition, about nirvana and samsara, and it just there's such beauty. Even there's some ugliness in the film, but that ugliness kind of contributes to the greater beauty of it. And I think, and so I think in that sense, art, yeah, any sort of art that moves you is kind of a spiritual practice. Any anything where you expose yourself to beauty in a way that moves you and gives you some sort of transcendence. That to me is a spiritual practice. Um, and I also think there's also a sense in which sort of my own uh, self reflection is a sort of spiritual practice. Particularly, I try to incorporate Carl Jung's idea of the shadow. And whenever someone pushes my buttons, I try to ask myself, what is it within me that they're reflecting back at me? Because I figure, if I had my shit together, then whatever the other person's doing wouldn't bother me. It's because they're highlighting some weakness within me, and I have to sort of own that in order to and sort of heal that within myself in order to be able to forgive others and to be and to be more integrated. And that for me is another thing is forgiveness. I think forgiveness is itself a spiritual practice. Isn't just the product of spirituality. It's actually a spiritual practice for me and myself. And when I think about it, I think that was one of the main things that kind of drove me towards Christianity was the emphasis on complete and utter forgiveness and redemption and loving your enemies, and that to me, that's not just a thing. I think that was the ultimate spiritual practice taught to us by Jesus, was to love your enemies, to try to forgive those who curse you and who hate you. And it's not easy. I definitely am not there yet. I try to. I try to forget, and I pride myself on how little I hold grudges. I'm a very forgiving person for the most part, but even I, am not to the level where I can honestly say that you know, that I love my enemies, and that I feel, a universal brotherhood with people like Osama bin Laden, or even people at home like Glenn Beck or something. And so that's part of my ongoing spiritual practice, is um, learn to love those people uh, who I have serious problems with, and to learn to see them as members of of the same human family and the same body of Christ, and learn to love and forgive them. So that for me is the biggest spiritual practice, is learning to love and to forgive. Um, so that's it for now.